In today's Pop Beat Breakdown video, we are going to be doing a sad, emotional piano ballad beat in the style of Lewis Capaldi. Now, this is a very popular style of ballad beat to do now. You've got that blend of mellow piano with driving acoustic guitars and a very uplifting tone to the chorus, which contradicts normally the verses, with a more momentous second period of the song. So, this beat here is a perfect example of what I wanted to kind of break down. So we're going to give this beat a listen to, but one of the first things I really need to point out in this breakdown is everything here, this is the order that everything was added, so you're getting the best understanding of how I was able to build a track in this style. Let's just have a quick listen to the track before we break it down. So yeah, you get the idea. So, fundamental thing here is this is a piano ballad, so we started with the piano. Now, for the piano today, it's the one I normally go to quite a lot. It's the Maverick by Native Instruments. There's a lot of great Logic sounds you could use as well. And I went for the Tranquil Maverick today because I really wanted that really nice mellow piano sound. I also wanted a really kind of melodic piano this time because I've noticed that a lot of Lewis Capaldi's latest songs, which are on his EP, very, very melodic piano in the background. Something like that. So it's got a lot of momentum to it. So this already creates a good amount of energy while also being very kind of mellow at the same time, which is really kind of kills two birds with one stone, which is very hard to do in a piano ballad production. Now, we are layering piano in because this isn't the only piano, because we really want the piano to sound full. It could be the staple of the production. So I'll get onto this little trick. This is a very cool production trick, by the way, but I'm going to hold off on telling you this just for a little bit. So, piano then, we also put in a lower root note. Just to cover the bass end. And then in the higher octave, to kind of really have a whole frequency stretch of this piano, some just higher harmonies. Very simple. Now, the thing about we really want to be cautious about with piano in productions like this is you need to really have a distinguishable difference from the verse to the chorus so the piano really stands out, especially because it's so mellow. So one little trick I like to do in productions is to have a second piano playing the exact same thing as the piano we first did in. So it's basically copy and pasted here. But what we're going to do is we're going to put in a brighter piano sound. And as you can see, this is the EQ for the second piano. And I'm going to play it by itself first so you know what it sounds like. By itself sounds like a piano on a phone, really weird. But when you put it on top of this piano, when compared to this, you can just hear there's so much difference. All of a sudden the piano has a lift. And that's what we need when we get to the chorus, because we really need a distinguishable difference, because that's what makes the chorus impactful. So that's just a really cool little production trick. Next thing I wanted to do was really convey the emotion in this beat, and it's best done in ballads through the strings. Now, I have a set of rules which I follow when I produce strings, which makes it very easy to do. You always want to start with the lower octave, so like the cello, and if you want to harmonize that cello, add a viola in as well. So these are the first two things that are laid down. The cello basically playing whatever you play on the bass, so it's going to replicate that when we add some sub bass later on. And then the viola is just doing a nice little harmony, normally like in thirds and fifths above the root note, so it sounds like this. And then, again, super simple. We're just putting in our block chords, I call it. So just play the block chords of the string, same on the piano. No movement, just solid, just sustaining the chords. Now, the next part of this is the melody and the counter melody. So what you're going to want to do is just figure out some kind of string melody around the key which works and transitions well with the chords. And then you're going to want a counter melody, which is basically playing another melody, but kind of just bouncing off the first melody. So it sounds something like this. Sounds beautiful, harmonizing. So just after adding these 5 ideas, it already sounds like this. Then we're going to want the last element, which is kind of like the icing on the cake, the higher frequencies again. Kind of playing in another melody. It can be very similar to the first one. You want to keep this one very simple because the higher the strings, the more they're going to stick out in the mix. So you don't want too much going on because the strings are just for the background at the end of the day. So this is what it sounds like. Very beautiful. Now, how to mix the strings in? Very simple. You want to use a sample delay, and you want to, every alternative one, you want to sample delay one to the left, then sample delay to the right, sample delay to the left, sample delay to the right, sample delay to the left, sample delay to the right. Now, what this does is, a sample delay, in theory, doubles the audio that it's doing the sample delay on. Obviously, it pushes out to the sides of the mix, and then you have a slight bias on whichever side that you're delaying it. So if it's delayed on the right, you're going to hear it on the left first, which kind of perceives it as if it's more left, but you've basically doubled up the sound of strings. So we've doubled the size of our strings by doing this, but also push the strings out to the sides of the mix as well. It's not only is there a nice stereo spread, but it's just fuller, it's bigger, and it's super easy to do. So when you put that in with the piano, this is what we have so far. But there's so much more we need to add to this to make this anywhere near a release-ready beat. So next thing to do is acoustic guitar, very common in Lewis Capaldi productions, very common in ballads nowadays in general, even if it's just laid into the background. So for the acoustic guitars today, we're using the acoustic sunburst for both. We have the Toolbox 8th accented 4th, and we have the Toolbox 8 accented 8th. Now, what we've done with this is we put both of them onto swing because we've got a very kind of swing like dum-ba-da-dum-ba-da-dum-ba-da. So both of them are swinging on like the 8th, which just really helps to make the acoustic guitar flow with the piano. And that's what you want to listen for, because when you're trying to find the acoustic guitar, it's the second main element to the piano. So what you want to do is when you're finding that, mute the strings, just listen to the piano with the acoustic guitar and make sure they flow well together. Just like that, super easy. And then there's a couple of really simple elements here that I'm going to discuss, which I don't want to spend too much time on. One is the deep 808 bass, which is just following the bass, same as the cello, and just deep 808 bass from Alchemy with a 20% roll off on the attack. Gives you really nice sub without the kind of bite that you get from some 808s, which really suits Ballad productions, which sounds like this. It's an 808. Not much more to say to that. So then next thing I want to do is really start to build up the ambience of the track. We want this to be really atmospheric and kind of emotional. Not cinematic as such, but kind of close to that. So I went into Omnisphere, and one of my favourite pads to use just in general, which has now disappeared, but we'll quickly find it. So you go into pads and strings, go on type, and then you're going to want to find the Fantasia grains, which is in the hybrid keyboards. So that's how you find it there. And it's really nice, it's spatial, and it sounds something like this. And that's just playing on the octaves, doubling up, it's playing, just harmonizing whatever chords is going on. So obviously this is C major, this key, so it's sustaining a C, and then when it drops to G, it sustains a D, because obviously D is in the triad of G, and then back to C again, because both A minor and F, which are the other two chords, both have a C in them. So it just harmonizes really well, adds some feel to it. Now, this wouldn't be a pop beat breakdown video without some splice samples in, because everyone knows who watches this channel, I do love a splice sample. So I wanted to really find some sort of I want to say interesting ambience, which will be a bit unique for any kind of ballad that you hear. So I found this kind of pad, which has some kind of like atmosphere to it. Now, this is actually assigned to the 110 BPM, but it's in D major, and the key's in C major. So what I had to do was pitch this down to semitones, added a sample delay on it just to, added a chorus, on it to put it outside the mix, and I also added reverb on it with 36% just to help tie over any kind of like overlapping kind of like clip outs here that happen, because when you add a pad, which is a sample, a lot of producers actually don't include the roll-off or the decay of the pad, which can make it sound very messy. So putting a reverb on kind of just tidies up these little in-between bits here sometimes, or if you're going to loop it. So that's really cool. So then at this point I'm listening, it's like, okay, this is the atmosphere that we got. And I also found this, which is really unique, but I just loved it. I was just going through Splice, again, trying to find some ambient textures, and I found this. Now, you listen to that and you think, well, if you listen to that by itself in isolation, you think it doesn't make sense. But when you actually add it in with the rest of the ambience, I just love it. And this is the thing about music sometimes. You've got to experiment as you go. Sounds really cool. So when you start adding stuff, and let's say we add the pennies in as well, just to see what it sounds like. It just adds something, and I love that, so I kept it in. Now, a couple of little things just to really help with the production, obviously, is some white noise crashes. You can reverse one of them as well, using the old Command-Shift-R to reverse them. It's white noise, like it's not too much really to talk about, although I always put chorus on my white noise just to push it outside the mix, because I find that white noise down the middle of the mix can be a bit messy, so just keep that in mind. And then obviously, I don't want to go too heavy on the production in this too quickly. So just a 4 on the floor, kind of very cinematic, bassy kick. I'll call it like a heartbeat kick, because it sounds like a heartbeat. Works really well in this kind of production though. And then the last thing to do really, other than I'll quickly mention this pad down here, which is the Airways by Logic. Again, kind of just tying into the whole pad thing. I just did something I did at the end. I now want to talk about, though, the kind of like the orchestral side of piano ballads, which kind of gets missed out on quite a lot. So all of these are just Logic Pro X orchestral parts, but it really adds to the kind of emotional quality of tracks when you use actual orchestral kits. So, for example, this Glockenspiel, just something really nice and light in the background. Added some reverb and chorus to this and tape delay. But it's really nice, something pretty for the background. Almost makes it sound like a Christmas beat, so I was trying to be careful not to make it sound too much like a Christmas beat with that. Then obviously a crash, which is obviously for the stamp on the chorus. I actually say it's a gong more than a crash, but that's the thing, it's dramatic, so it really helps convey the emotions in the chorus, and that stamp where the chorus is kind of like the climax every time in the track. So, and then on top of this, just added in this, it's a hi-hat, but I used it as a snare. Then I added in some just drums that I had. Just to add some kind of like bass, like cinematic quality to it. And then lastly, just added just whatever the snare was, just to help put a stamp with the hi-hat. And that is everything that I added. So when you incorporate everything I've done together, you get something that sounds a little bit like this. By the way, guys, if you're an artist and you want this beat for yourself, you can actually download this beat in the link that I've provided below in the description, either free for non-profit, or if you want to actually try and write something over this and release it on all major streaming platforms, you can purchase a license to do that. But yeah, guys, that is the video. Let me know below if you've got any questions on anything I've said in this video, or if there's anything you want to add, or if there's any requests below for any type beats you kind of want me to do in the future and do future beat breakdown videos of. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Keep making music, and I'll see you in the next video.